so many firms have issues with profitability. Let's say they have 100 employees and I automatically apply a $200,000 per head. Like, okay, to have that, you need to be making at least 20 million. And I have had clients that are like, I have 130 employees and I make 18 million. I'm like, okay, well, that just tells me that you have no profit.
Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by a very special guest who is a really good friend of mine, although he is a competitor, Chris Dreyer from Rankings.io. We talked about a bunch of things, from me cussing to his upcoming conference, PIMCon, to SEO, to reviews. Oh my goodness, reviews. We touched on AI for a bit. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode.
So where am I looking?
At me? What do you mean, where are you looking?
I don't know. Okay.
Chris Dreyer. Finally, I can't believe it's taken this long for you to come on my podcast.
I know. I just don't travel.
It's just kind of fucked up. Like, I've been on your podcast.
I know. I'm excited to do it. You guys got a good setup. This is like what a real podcast is all about, right? Not in a closet.
The video? Yeah, I love in-person interviews.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for me because I'm at so many conferences. All right, let's talk about, well, I think the most natural thing is to talk about what we do. You know, you and I talk about this a lot, is like intake and reviews. Like, those two things is like, that's all I need. Like, can you please just get these two things done? And it sounds so much easier than it actually, especially intake. I think intake is so much more complicated. Yeah. I think reviews, I actually don't think that that's that complicated, if I'm honest.
It literally makes me want to fight someone when I see missed calls on a CallRail report. Literally, I want to fight. Like, I get so mad. But yeah, on reviews, there's a problem, and we both know it, right? It's the type of firm. It's are you the volume practice that has a wide number of cases and case types and maybe low case selection criteria, and then there's like the baller litigators that really, you know, maybe it's just birth injury or what have you, just trucking. They just don't have a volume of cases, so it's hard for them to get legit reviews, from their clients.
But couldn't other lawyers review them, friends and family? Like, as long as they don't say that they handled a case, like, couldn't somebody be like, you know, Bob Smith is great? Or are we kind of at that point, it's questionable?
It's questionable. I'm going to be real with you. I haven't looked at the guidelines for a bit.
Yeah.
Because they're just so murky. And it's like, what is actually a client experience? Was like going into the firm, meeting the lawyer, having an actual case.
Like, what if somebody calls the firm and they don't have a case and they're the fifth firm that they're calling, and then the firm takes the time to explain to them why there is no case? Like, I would say you need to ask that person to leave you a review.
Absolutely. And we both see this. The number one, like, everybody, large volume practices get those 1-star reviews. Oh, they didn't accept my case.
Yes.
And it's like, it's the training on the intake, first of all. It's like, instead of saying, we don't take that case, we're like, absolutely, I can help you out. And just go grab literally a family law attorney's number and give it to them. But it's framing it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, reviews is like, I think it irks me even more than intake, just because I think it's more controllable. Even if you are super boutique trial firm, like, I don't believe firms are maximizing the reviews that they can get from their existing clients. And like, even just having that, and the way that you know is because you see this thing where it's like, they'll get like 5 reviews in 1 month and they get nothing for 3 months. And I'm like, that doesn't show me that you're maximizing. I think I know a firm is really trying when they've set a consistent, almost, it's like they have a cadence. It's like they're getting 1 review a week or 1 every 2 weeks. And it's just like, okay, maybe they don't have a ton of clients, but they're like consistently getting those reviews.
You're dead on, first of all. And I think that we have to reframe what we're talking about. And a lot of times people talk about marketing and they only talk about lead gen. But marketing is your prospective clients, your existing clients and your former and your past clients. There's marketing, and you do different strategies, right? There's when you're marketing to existing clients, you're trying to get reviews, you're trying to get referrals.
Totally.
And then there's nurture strategies. And a lot of times people just focus on the front end and they're just missing out on a big opportunity.
I just think there's so much that can be done. And I think it's overwhelming, right? Like both of us run businesses and we talk about like our own internal, things that it's like, it's overwhelming to run a business, right? You have all these employees, like there's so much that goes on, so many processes. So I'm not trying to be like insensitive. Like I get that it's like a lot, I live it, but there are just so many missed opportunities that I see with firms.
One of my favorites is I've been telling our clients, and I'm sure you've had similar conversations, is like, you need a fixer. Like, who's your fixer? Who has super high EQ, is very likable, just people like them. So when you get a negative review, put the fixer on it.
Yeah.
And have them reach out and try to solve that. It's just so valuable as opposed to it going to the lead attorney. I mean, I can't stand that. First of all, because their hourly rate and what they're supposed to be doing on cases, it's so much more, in my opinion, valuable to put someone whose sole job is just to focus on reviews, and there's just a lot of distractions, and it's more of an afterthought when you put like escalate it to the lead attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. What tips do you have for firms to get more reviews?
Bunch. I'll kind of rapid fire. It's, asking at all points, like you said, intake all the way through to the very end, not just waiting until the settlement check arrives. Incentivizing your staff. So $25, $50 to incentivize the behavior.
Dude, I say $100.
Yeah, $100.
I tell our clients $100 cash.
I like team-based spiffs, team-based competition. So say you're at 200 reviews and you tell the firm, hey, this is this big reward. Maybe it's a party, maybe that everyone gets it if we hit 300 reviews. So now
you're a day off or whatever.
Yeah. And then there's, micro commitments. So asking for a review and they say yes, as opposed to just sending the link at the very beginning. Because once you get that micro commitment, it gives you permission to follow up multiple times through technology. Then there's asking to review the individual as opposed to the firm. Like, hey, would you do me a good job for helping you out on this intake? My boss looks at me and rewards my performance based upon this. Like, that ask is going to be so much more powerful than, can you leave my firm a review?
Yeah. Marno actually just had that happen to him where I forget what the service was, but they were like, hey, I'd really appreciate it. Like my boss is like really looking at this. Could you leave me a review and mention my name? And Marno like fell for it. And then in hindsight, he was like, that was really fucking smart. Like I actually reviewed,
Yeah, legit. When I was in Miami and we visited you guys and I ate at a restaurant. I was on
no, that was you that told me the fucking story, not Mariano.
Yeah, yeah.
You told me the story.
The server said that, like, hey, my boss looks at it, and he had a business card with a QR code. And the thing is, like, people talk about review stickiness. Like, there's so many attorneys that the reviews get filtered out. It's because they're super generic. But if you mention the name and the location,
we
all
were
these
in an Uber
details,
when you told us this.
Yeah, it's wild.
The other thing is I've heard that anytime the client says thank you is a great time to ask for a review.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a good one. You need to put that in the blog. That's a good one.
I like that. Anytime the client says thank you is a great time to ask for a review. I didn't come up with
that's a highlight.
I don't know who said it at a conference, like I think during a panel, and I was like, I like that. Nearshoring.
Yeah.
Are you noticing a ton of firms?
Yeah, so there's a big conversation here, right? It's with professional services, which is heavy on headcount. No matter how much we want to implement tech, we still need a lot of bodies, a lot of people to do the work. And it used to be taboo. I think it's not as much now because we're all connected and through technology and COVID. It's you look at things, the cultures are different. Like, look, I'm gonna be real. Like, and some people will probably not like this, but like in certain cultures, the work ethic is just different, and they're gonna work harder. I've had employees.
Are you kidding me? My Mexico team works so fucking hard. It's like we're in the 1950s. Like it's just something has shifted. in the US in
Yeah.
terms of work. It has. I'm sorry. And I think it's, I don't know if it's like the distraction of social media or that we gave everyone a trophy. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I think everyone is going to agree with you. I don't think anyone's going to dislike you.
I think so many firms have issues with profitability. And the first thing that I look at is like, how many head bodies do they have? Okay, so you have, let's say they have 100 employees, and I automatically apply a $200,000 per head. Like, okay, to have that, you need to be making at least 20 million. And I have had clients that are like, I have 130 employees and I make 18 million. I'm like, okay, well, that just tells me that you have no profit if you're doing all US based labor. I can't help it. It is what it is. So all these attorneys that are just struggling with profit, you probably have too much US based labor. It's just too expensive.
It is.
Or you're not utilizing tech enough to get that revenue per employee number up. And look, I'm going to get some hate, but it is what it is.
I don't think you're going to get any hate. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
Like for us, that's why we have a nearshore component. With us, it's a little different because it's an actual business in Mexico and we have physical offices. But I see a lot of firms hiring employees out of Colombia, Mexico, different parts of Latin America. And I think it's really smart.
Yeah. The other thing that's just not talked about, and I'm going to say something else that's the employment attorneys are probably going to want to smack me around, but like it's the age, right? So if you have good training and processes and can get younger individuals to do the work, your health insurance costs are lower. Like we all want talent, we want experience, right? But it is what it is. Like if you're looking for profitability and you don't have boot camps and training to get, talent from, younger individuals, that it hits you. It just is what it is. Like you and I, we run a business to make profit.
Mm-hmm.
And those types of things are not talked about. And it's real. And it is not our job to make the employees indispensable. It is their job.
Yeah. I do think there's a problem like that whole silent quitting bullshit.
Yeah, we don't get to that with KPIs. We see it where they're
nuked. Same here. I think you and I utilize tech too much and it's performance driven.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I think that's also part of the problem, right? You have so many law firms that are unwilling to change. They're not using tech, like you said.
Yeah.
Their training is still all in person, one-on-one versus having like using something like Trainial or Guru, or what do you guys use?
We use just Notion right now.
So something like that, right? Where you have like a library of, it's very corporate in my opinion. It like takes me back to like AT&T when we'd go through all these like trainings, right? If you're not utilizing that, I think it just makes it tough.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to the labor-based conversation in terms of profitability and utilization. So like one method is like the traditional up or out. Like they start with low experience and they either go up at the business or they're out, right? They don't, it's where the Peter principle comes from. But then like the other is dividing a skill into multiple functions. So that's where the paralegals, the secretaries came, and you have these multiple types instead of the full cycle attorney that's doing it all. So in our space, I know you know this too, right? Is like we have account managers, project managers, but then we have different disciplines of SEO and
right.
It helps because you can ramp up and train the employees faster on a specific set as opposed to all.
It's like In-N-Out and McDonald's and like that. I think it's McDonald's now, the one that's like you just put on ketchup the whole time.
Yeah,
like you just do this one thing and you do it over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's that concept. But what's the Peter principle?
It's like I'm going to get this wrong, but it's basically you promote individuals until they reach their level of incompetence. So
got it. Okay, cool. I didn't know what that was. And then you touched on SEO for a second, or you said the word SEO, and it got me thinking, do you think it's dead?
Oh, it's definitely not dead. I mean, it's 60% of the global traffic is Google. The difference is it's more challenging. Back in the day when we started our agencies, you could write a blog and it would rank because it was the only blog.
Right.
That's not today. I mean, there's some exceptions, right, with original data and surveys, but it's just more competitive. So it demands expertise. So
Absolutely.
a lot of these individuals that think it's dead, it's because you worked with people that weren't good and didn't know what they were doing.
I know. So I always think it's really funny when someone's like, I've spoken to a bunch of lawyers and they say that SEO doesn't work. And I always say one of two things. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, it's a race. So did they win the race and it still didn't work? Like you're telling me they won the race, they didn't get the trophy? Like, and if so, did they have a conversion issue? But they have never won the race. It's always like, well, no, they tried and it didn't work. Okay, well, it is a race, right? That's number one. Number two is, did you ask a competitor? And if the answer is yes, I just pull up my phone, I Google, and I'm like, well, they're ranking. This isn't cheap. This isn't a set and forget it. So if it doesn't work for them, why do they continue to pay for it? Like, riddle me that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And I just think that there are so many agencies that really don't have the intent, that they've just given us such a bad name.
Yeah.
It's given our space like...
Most of those clients are given exclusivity, by the way, too.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for a sec?
Sure, go for it.
Do you give exclusivity away?
No.
Why?
It's very rare. Well, the exclusivity that we're doing now would be like an arch enemy. Like, I get it if you don't
I've done that before.
Well, like a named individual. The whole geography thing, first of all, it's just ridiculous because we don't want to restrict our clients' ability to grow, right? And I took that from you.
Yeah.
It's because if you have a client who wants to expand to a new city, you want to help them. You don't want to say, oh, we got a client there, we can't help that individual. And that's why you have non-disclosure agreements in your contracts. That's why you have, individualized teams that protect that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not TV and radio where they own the distribution. SEO, you could be a mile away from your competitor and you're not going to rank in the map pack in the same capacity. So It's just absolutely ludicrous to give away exclusivity.
What I tell firms is like, look, you have about, depending on the market, so this isn't perfect, probably have 5 to 7 firms that take 90% of the cases digitally. If you're one of those 5 to 7 firms, who gives a shit who does it for the other, 4 to 6 firms? It doesn't matter. Like, and for me, I feel really strongly about not restricting our clients' growth because, we've both when we used to offer exclusivity, we both ran into these issues where client wants to go into another market and I'm exclusive, and then they're just like heartbroken by it. And then now they have a really tough decision to make, which is, do I fire an SEO agency that finally fucking works after like years of trying and not having it work? Or do I just not go into this market? That's just a really, really fucked up place to put
ridiculous.
someone.
It's ridiculous. The smaller agencies use exclusivity because it creates urgency through scarcity. It's a sales tactic, right?
1,000%
It hits on the FOMO and all those, that type of stuff. And then the other thing too is what the firms don't understand is the true opportunity cost of what it would actually cost them to take a market exclusive. So if you wanted the whole state, that's a big dollar price point, and then it's just going to blow up your CPAs, and it's just not going to be a win-win for either party. So I think as long as the agency is ethical and has integrity and truly wants to deliver an ROI, that you should leave it up to them and their discretion.
Yeah. Now I know you are fed up, or I think you are, because I am, with the conversation of AI.
I'm good with it.
You're good with it? Because I'm so burnt out on it. But like, is it taking over Google?
No, and I kind of I've got the opposite thought on this. So first of all, Google rolled back its SGE stuff because it couldn't make money. Surprise, if you automatically give the answer to people and like who's going to use ads. So they rolled that back. Where AI is being utilized, at least in legal, is on the delivery, the ops side. So what happens is it's gonna decrease their cost to work the cases, and they're gonna be able to get more value. So it's gonna lend itself to more marketing dollars.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so that's my current view on it, and yeah, it's put downward pressure on, say, like bad content. Like if you're getting productized junk content, yeah, you can make that cheaper, but it's junk.
So see, I love that, because the fact that all these agencies are using AI content and it's like even shittier than their prior content makes our content even better. So I'm like, I'm all for it. I'm like, you want to use AI content? Go for it.
Yeah, no. So we use AI in terms of like ideation
Yeah,
and like research and things like that to speed up and for efficiency. But like in terms of it being a standalone,
You
it's just
can't. It doesn't work.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell when AI wrote content and like
Mhm.
reading comprehensions, like I suck at that. English is my second language. It's just like,
Yeah.
and the fact that very quick, I'm like, there's something off about this. It's
Mhm.
like, I don't know, such a red flag. But yeah, I love how people think SEO is dead. I'm like, cool.
We'll keep doing it.
Yeah, keep thinking that. Especially when it's like, I had a client the other day, he messages me and he's like, I need to like, I want to just tell everyone because everyone doubted that this was going to work. And like, people think, I actually think he was like, people said you're full of shit. And I just want to like tell it. And I'm like, let them think that. Like, if your competitors want to think that this doesn't work, great. Like, no need for us to address that. Like, just let it be. Like, it's never going to be a good fit if a client comes to us and they think it's not going to work. Like, why would I want to work with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know?
do you want me to tell you what's really dead, right?
What?
TV is dead.
I agree.
Right?
I
Unless
agree.
you're going after those boomers and the older individuals, maybe you have a nursing abuse practice and you want to run some TV, great. And I'm not saying there isn't some strategies, but like it's not the golden goose that it used to be.
No. I think TV, if you've been a firm that has done TV for the past 20, 30 years, fine. You want to continue to do it and keep having that repetition and people already kind of in their mind. But a brand new firm going and doing TV makes zero sense to me, especially if they are doing digital, which to me, if I have to pick between traditional, and of course I'm biased, but if I just look at the data, right? Traditional return investment versus digital, I would do digital any day. But let's say that they are doing digital and let's just even say they have that down, right? They're actually generating cases. I would much rather them create synergy with billboards because the people driving are going to see the billboards and they're going to be the ones that need SEO. And because they're young enough to still be driving, right? They're more likely to use Google. And when they go in and type car accident lawyer and then they show up, now they're going to convert better because they saw the billboard, right? But if somebody's at home all day watching cable television, I don't think they're driving. So they're probably not getting in a car accident. Number two, they're definitely not using Google, in my opinion. That's just the way that, and I have nothing to back this up except just pure, like, this makes sense to me.
Yeah, I to be honest, like besides me getting on Vivix and looking at the Nielsen data on where the money moves, like I don't really have the TV game, so I'm talking a little biased, right? But
and also just what makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, what I will say is think about just where attention is congregated, and it's so fractured right now. So you look at TV now, you've got all Hulu and Disney and Netflix and YouTube TV. And then you look at social, it's not just Facebook, it's Instagram and X and LinkedIn and TikTok. The one thing I will say about outdoor advertisements is like, we're not driving like hover cars or flying to work, right? We're still in vehicles. So like, I feel like they've been like the old reliable, those real estate people listening, that's like your triple net investment.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point because even radio, you're competing with Spotify, right? Or Apple Music.
Podcasts.
Yep. Like all these other things. And I guess the only competition for billboards would be like Carvertise or wrapped trucks. But that's really it.
Yeah, and I'd put that even in a different category.
What
right?
category would you put that?
Well, I mean, I would put it like in traditional, right? But I think just your outdoor billboards, like we make fun of them. I make fun of them, but the reality is like a lot of times when you go on a market, like I can tell you, like from St. Louis, you got Brown and Krupa, you got Schultz Myers called, the Fours, you got Goldblatt Singer, and Onder. And the reason why I'm so familiar is they've got a lot of billboards. And I've got clients. I've got a client in that market. I think it's worth consideration to get some brand through billboards.
I'm a big fan of billboards, so it's not like Chris and I are like being so biased and we're saying the only thing that you should do is digital. We're not saying that at all. Like even I would prefer OTT over television, right?
I would definitely, as long as you have a good person managing it, right? If you're using your local TV station and they're not showing your CPMs, they're juicing you, they're juicing you, right? I'm sure they're using the trade desk. I'm sure they're using Simplify. But if they're not giving you the data on the CPM costs, you're probably getting fleeced. Again, like we know radio works. I like radio, right? We have, the Top Dog Law. A lot of the clients that Gary works with that are crushing radio. I think all marketing works. I just think, where the money's been is TV. You look at like the spends, it's just so disproportionate there, and it's just not having the same impact that it used to have.
Now, there are so many fucking conferences, and I know there's more than anyone. So what's different about your conference? Because I just feel like there are too many. So like it's a tough space right now to really differentiate yourself.
So PIMCon.org, it's for personal injury attorneys. We are not allowing any paid speakers, so everybody's been selected, and we're not doing any breakout sessions, and we're really trying to put a lot into the content. No, what do you call those panels? Mm-hmm. So really focusing on the biggest players. We got Morgan & Morgan, Shannara, Top Dog Law, people that are really generating a lot of cases. So I'm really excited about it.
Jen Gore's there.
Jen Gore.
Yeah, we gotta plug her.
Barry Law, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Bowman
awesome.
Law Group, yep.
I'm excited. We're actually sponsors.
We really want to educate PI firms on how to generate cases, and who better to say that? Not an entrepreneur from a different industry. We want the top PI attorneys to tell us how they're generating cases, the people in the space, the people in the weeds.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's no paid speakers. Like We're not going to let people just pay.
I know, I tried.
We're right. we're choosing them, right? We're the biggest of the big. And people that were great guests on the podcast, right? That we know can speak and are articulate. And we're not doing any panels because I want to hear from the expert. And that's really what PIMCon is all about. It's all about the content and teaching how to generate cases and like what works now.
Right.
It's on the networking course. It's going to be a great networking because it's at the Phoenician, and the Phoenician, I Googled top 10 resorts in the US, and it was like in the top 5. But
that's great SEO.
It is. I did Google. Out of the top 5, it was one of the only ones that had the event, the space to do like a good event. And so there's a lot of great restaurants and great networking opportunities. And then on the fun side, we're trying to, liven up. We got David Spade I don't know that I'm supposed to say that. Sorry, Randy. But yes, David Spade is coming. He's going to be a comedian for one day. We have another keynote that I absolutely would get in trouble if I announced that this early. That's going to be great. And we got a big concert. So we're trying to like do the mix. But I would say, look, if I'm being real and being honest, like where we're really focusing on is the content. Like how can we educate PI attorneys on how to generate cases? I mean, if you saw like our mapped out, like our strategy and like what we're doing to ensure the content is correct. So like this is something that people don't talk about too. A lot of times an event person, like when you're throwing an event, you take NTMP, which is a great conference. It's been around. It has a huge draw.
Yeah.
When people are thinking about this, they've got like 80 speakers.
Yeah.
Right. So they have 80 evangelists to go promote this event.
Yes.
Right. It might be someone's first speaking opportunity, and they're going to talk all about their social media. So that's the downside for me.
Yeah.
Done this event.
About this.
I've got like 12 to 14 speakers. Not to say they won't evangelize it, but I don't have as many people talking about it. So that lends itself to some challenges. But one of the things we're kind of beating over the head since we're on the content side, which is some of the speakers aren't going to like, and it just is what it is. Overall, it will be great, is we're making sure they have their content approved in a certain format, in certain decks. It's not just people going up there and winging it. Like it's going to be very thoughtful and planned. And we have to approve it. It's like, I'm just not letting people go up there unprepared to talk about subject material.
Cool. I'm excited. I'm sure people will think it's weird that we're sponsoring your conference.
No, we've been friends for a long time.
I know. I don't know that people know that.
Yeah, it's odd.
It's odd that we're friends?
No. I mean that people don't know that, or think that like agencies don't have friends with each other,
right.
Can be friends.
I think some people aren't friends with other people in the space.
That's fair. Yeah.
But We respect what you do.
There's some that we respect but we don't like. We won't name them though.
No, we won't. Actually, I don't know that I respect many.
Yeah, that's fair. Me too.
Yeah, let's not lie. Okay, so when is the conference? What date?
It is September 15th through 17th. So
and
it'll be a 2-day.
Do my listeners get a discount code?
Yeah.
What is it?
We'll have to make it up. LawRank.
It'll be LawRank, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Awesome.
And fun story, I'm on the phone with Chris a week ago, and I'm like, oh, I have Masters Made Perfect. I'm like, kind of like not super looking. I was kind of being lazy about it. And Dreyer goes, well, I'll be in Vegas. Ha. And I'm like, are you fucking with me right now? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
so here's the part where you throw me under the bus.
Yes. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Mass Torts is in Vegas. He's like, it is? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, I hate conferences. I'm like, you're throwing a conference. He's like, yeah, but that's my conference. And he didn't even believe me. You pull it up. I'm like, you don't believe, like, I go to every conference, like, and you look it up and you're like, oh shit, I'm literally there on those days. And I'm like, okay, we're going to record. And you're like, and I'm like, no, we're recording. And you're like, fine.
To be clear, my wife's birthday, she wanted to go to Vegas. So we had this plan. So happy wife, happy life. I wanted to spend a lot of time with her. I do have a team here. I love my clients that are here. We've known each other for so long now that like I'm super comfortable like doing this, right? But when I go, I turn into a shell. Like I'm just super nervous.
I think we should like talk about that for like literally a minute. Because so many people don't want to go to conferences because there's almost like a social anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I know people think I don't have that, but I do feel that sometimes, especially at conferences where either I don't know many people or when I feel really overwhelmed. Like I have a ton of podcasts to record. I have meetings, like I'm getting like a lot of text messages, and I just feel like, oh, like I want people to like leave me alone. And like Matt, my videographer, knows that like during conferences, don't talk to me because like the 10 minutes that I get, I'm just like so overwhelmed, and I'm like, no one talk to me. And I have to like meditate to like calm down.
Mine is, so I think one of the first conferences I went to was Crisp and Mogul threw a great conference, but like literally hardly anyone knew me. Right. It was like, I think I just started the podcast. So it was like, you're just kind of I'm walking around. It's kind of awkward.
That's where we
But I think since you before you started your podcast, many people knew you because you went to so many events, but like no one knew me. So when I did the podcast, like it actually helped because people would come up and introduce themselves, and it made me feel a lot better.
Someone yesterday came up to me and he goes, oh my God, you're Maria. I've been listening to your stupid podcast. And his face just right away, he caught him. So he's like, that's not what I meant. I'm like, that's just what you said. We're dying laughing about it.
Yeah. Can we talk about the podcasts that are bad? Like, what do we do? Like,
I don't listen to legal podcasts, not even moguls.
I mean, like our guests.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I don't, well,
it's so bad.
I had one and I didn't air it.
I've done that once, but there's definitely 4 or 5 that if I
don't know that I've had that issue.
I think I've grown up though as a business owner where like having the tough conversations, with employees and firing more quickly when you've given them opportunities. I think that's come now like to the point with the podcast. Like, look, that wasn't good. Like you were distracted. I
don't know. I don't think I've had that issue once, but I think for the most part, I'm really picky though. I have to know you. I have to like you. I get asked all the time and I'm like, nope. Mine are in person. So that lends itself to be a little bit more, and I don't know. I really enjoy doing it.
I do too. So
wait, I got to talk to you.
Okay.
This was a really bad episode. We're not going to air it.
Oh, well, it's been great hanging out.
I should have punked you and done that. Like zoomed you and recorded
I actually wouldn't have cared, but I thought it was a good one.
No, this has been good. We're totally airing it. Just fucking with you. You didn't get the joke right away. I almost feel like you fell for it for a second.
Yep, I did.
Like you should know me better right now.
Yep, that was good.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, like the the advantage, like yours, you have better content because of the video and your team and the lighting and the setting. It's more personal.
Yeah, they make me look good.
And a lot of, and if they're at conferences, like maybe your guests maybe had a drink or two and they come on, they feel a little more loose to speak. Like, I don't know if that's happened.
I mean, we've had a few, like yesterday I was recording one where we're like, all right, let's go offline for a second.
Yeah.
And like, let's have this conversation offline. So I've definitely had situations where people are like, hey, I'm going to have to cut that. And I was like, oh, it was already cut. Like,
yeah,
you know, especially if it's someone that like, sometimes somebody will start shit talking someone that like I genuinely really like or have like a friendship with. And I'm like, that was great, but I'm not posting that.
See, I don't get that as often. The personal, like the comfort to say that kind of stuff. Like it's more like people are kind of like in this scripted, like button up. They don't even loosen up. They don't loosen up.
No, people really loosen up with me, like a lot, I think. Maybe I just think that, and that's like my ego talking, but I think the in-person, that's why I've done virtual and I'm like, no. I like in person. I mean, obviously it requires like, I mean, I don't know how feasible this is forever.
It's better. I would say here's the pros and cons is what I would say. Like the pro of remote for me is like I can just crank out 15 episodes a week and it's like super easy, right?
This is my fifth this trip and that's nothing.
And the other thing is like sometimes it limits your guests, like because some people just don't travel.
I know. I'm very, very aware of that. Can we talk about this for a second? Like, because I get asked a lot about the podcast. People think it's like, oh, you record and then that's it.
Oh.
Isn't it so much fucking work?
It's a ton of work, right? Guests, like if you're going to ask good questions, like we know each other, so like we can kind of wing it a little bit more, I would say. And like, but even us, like we discuss what we're going to talk about.
I don't prep though. I know you're much better about it. I do zero prep.
So we prep a lot, and I would say just the post-production editing, the audio,
the transcript, the show notes, the getting the headshots, all of the, the covers for the reels, all the TikToks, reels, captions, voiceovers. Fuck, I haven't done voiceovers this week. It's just promoting it. Then the guest wants the stuff, sending it to the guest, posting, tagging. People think it's like, oh, you jump on Riverside and like hit record and then like it all just like magically happens. And it's like, whenever people are like, I want to start a podcast, I'm like, you have no fucking idea how much work it is. And we only do one episode. Do you still do two or you do one?
We did two a lot last year. This year, just because of the conference, we went back to one. Now
That's brutal 2 a week.
Big Q. Two was rough. And I'm not sure, looking at we both look at our download numbers and the download numbers are about the same.
Interesting. That's really interesting. That makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. You would think like
people have limited time, no?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know that like I'm busy.
I think that I would go, if I was going to really test the vault, it would be like a different type of show, and I would do like a daily, like at least 5, but maybe even shorter.
I've been trying to do some shorter because I always try to hit an hour and I'm like done with that.
See, I've been thinking about that too. Like the longer ones, like, I don't know, like you get more clips and like good little nuggets to promote like on shorts and things like that.
See, we do the same amount of clips regardless. I guess we've never thought about that, like doing it depending on time. For me, it's like if the guest is like really well known, has been like requested by people, like they want to hear like just a more well known, or that I feel like what we're talking about is so meaningful.
Yeah.
Like I did an intake one the other day and it was it was almost 2 hours, but it was so
Yanni.
Yeah.
I want to talk. Yanni, if you're listening.
No, you're not allowed to talk to him. She's not allowed to talk to you. We have like an agreement. It's a non.
Is it really?
What you
Dang
do.
it.
No, of course not. I'm kidding. I love her. I would never want her to. Of course she can talk to you. I'll put you in a 3-way text after.
Cool.
No. I'm totally kidding. Yeah, with her and like Sean Claggett yesterday was 2 hours. But it's Sean fucking Claggett, like
Spider-Man.
Exactly. So it's like if he is down to record with me, who am I to be like, let's end this now? Like I'm so grateful. Like I get 2 hours with Sean. Like
I think you go deeper too. Like when you have a short one, like you may just hit like top level, and then like
It is.
within the 2 hours, you're going to have some real gold.
Well, we started talking about like some more personal things because we were an hour in, you know, some things that like he had to think about and like, answer, you know,
Yeah.
thoughtfully.
I got an email the other day, and it was like really good feedback, and they liked our episode with Angel Reyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, why? You know, because I do a bunch, and they're like, because he gave actual numbers. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, and was more willing to share.
Interesting.
As
I'm
opposed
going to
to saying
listen to
cases.
it.
Yeah. Because he was like, well, I spent $6 million on TV. I would get X amount of cases. And like people liked it. Instead of people saying, oh, we're doing TV and we're doing great. Like, okay, but.
I'm going to start asking those questions, see if people answer me. The other thing, someone yesterday, the guy that was like, I've been listening to your stupid podcast. I was like, feedback. He's like, stop saying the word fuck. Like another like I'm actually now going to start considering not, like it really does bother people. It bothers you too?
I'm going to sound like a prude here.
You don't cuss?
I don't really like to cuss that often. And
you cuss though.
I occasionally will. And I'm not saying like, look, there's nothing wrong with
cuss.
I think sometimes when, I'm not saying this for you,
right?
I'm saying sometimes when people curse, it's because they have a limited vocabulary and they can't express themselves. So they'll say curse words because they're just dumb. Maybe. I'm not saying always.
So then people associate that with that, right?
Yeah.
I just cuss a lot. And I might have a limited vocabulary. English is my second language.
Definitely not. You're very articulate. And again, you do speak 2 languages and I do not. And I'm just saying in general, some people that are heavy cussers just start when you hear someone cursing a lot, take a look at those individuals.
Yeah, maybe I need to cut the shit. Thank you so much to Chris for everything he shared with us today. If you found this story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show. As a super quick reminder, don't forget that in Spotify, this is video and audio, and we also have a YouTube channel if you want to see the video component.